Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question? Not at all, my lord. Not at all. Hmm? I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name, for the sake of this less fortunate lass. My goodness.
What a perfect gentleman.
My lord. This fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. With such a record that he has up until this point, it is interesting to say the least. I'm ashamed of myself to ever doubting you, sir. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Down. Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leaning toward the verdict of not guilty?
There's no door. Well, you must mean
Must mean what?
that we're victorious.
We've won? Are you sure? Well, that has to be like the easiest case that I have been a part of in a very long time, if that's the case.
Objection!
Ah! Oh my. At the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offense. Pray, do forgive the discourtesy. Please step on. I forgive you, yes. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. But evidence and reasoning should be paramount. Emotion rules the day. Emotion? The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? They really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission. After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in the investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. Yeah, that's true. There were stuff inside that cubbyhole that now apparently are gone. And say case for the blood on the floor of the omnibus. Like before, it was not even there, but now mysteriously it is. I don't know. Like, something makes me question this entire thing in regards to what McGill had said. I guess at this point, it is making me think that nobody was hidden inside there. And I was thinking that maybe there was at least a little bit of free space for someone very, very small to fit inside there, but it was not even possible for Gina. Maybe, again, like a cat or something like that, but other than that, Good lord. The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGillet's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. What? Order! Order! Indeed. Which goes back to what McGilded actually knew at that point. He said that he wasn't even aware of Gina's presence inside the omnibus until the murder happened. But if we are to think that it was not even possible for her to hide inside there, and yet Gina was still inside, that would mean that McGilded must have known of the presence of Gina in the first place, that she was there as well. How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been effected, Counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. Well, I mean, it all happened suddenly when the smoke when the smoke occurred from the grenade. I mean, is it really anybody's fault? It's not. I wouldn't say that it's incompetence. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nipponese friend. Me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtless you examined it in fine detail, as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find the condition of the underseat compartment to be? Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry? Go ahead. You tell the court now, fellow. How this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zix. Oh. Are we actually gonna have like a moral dilemma over here? Like inside Ryonosuke's head? It does make me think of this, like, if McGilded wants to escape away scot-free with murder, if he was the one responsible for this, it certainly makes me question why he would pin the crime on Gina. Unless he is innocent and Gina did it, but why hide that detail in the first place? Like, I'm thinking of the situation that, well, McGilded does not want Gina to be accused of murder and found guilty. So McGilded himself wants to be accused of murder, because even up until this point, he was perfectly fine of being accused. Heck, it was possible that we wouldn't have like any defendant at all, and he was still fine with that, apparently. Something tells me that maybe this has something to do with, like, paying the bill after the trial ends. Like, he will be accused of and found guilty, but he will still escape scot-free because, well, he has the kaching, so maybe that's a reason why he's so calm about this entire thing of being accused. The more important thing would be for Gina to not be the one declared guilty. So, in that sense, McGilded wants Ryonosuke to go along with his plan. Thus, he wants Ryonosuke to say that, it was empty this entire time, and thus, it would go with McGilded's plan. But if we were to say that it was not empty, then that would ruin McGilded's plan, if this entire thing is what I'm describing here. Either way, I guess we shall see how this is gonna go. Well, Counsel, do you have something to say on this matter? Am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of that little compartment under the seat in the omnibus? Well, you know, I think that it is possible, gameplay-wise, to not even examine that in the first place. In which case, ouch, you won't even know how to respond to this. I mean, it is a good thing that I checked this, like, beforehand. Like, I checked this before and after the whole incident with the smoke grenade happened. Like, Me personally, it makes logical sense. And from the heart I'm saying that a win doesn't even matter. It matters trying to figure out the whole truth from both the defense attorneys and the prosecutor side to find the real culprit. This isn't about the winning. So in my eyes, I would definitely say that it wasn't empty. With my objective perspective over here, with Grade A's attorney, with the objective perspective of the narration as such, the stuff was definitely there. It's not unreliable narration, so I can clearly say that with my eyes, I saw like the tools inside there, so it wasn't empty. I really don't know if giving this answer is helping my cause as counsel for the defense. But as far as I remember, at least, when I first examined the compartment, I'm fairly certain there were a number of articles inside it, yes. Are you sure, Counsel? Ara, Pewist? What are you saying now, you daft dolt? I thought you were on my side here. Not necessarily. What game are you playing? Your task is to defend the man in the stance. Why would you say something to compromise his position? As the advocate for the defense in this trial, I confess I'm still not entirely sure where I stand. But it seems to me that I should state what facts I do know as clearly and honestly as possible. Interesting. Just not altogether pleasing, fella. I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGilded. No. Don't forget that your response to be representing my best interests here, lad. Now then. A fellow's memory is a curious thing, and not altogether reliable. Nah, the court must consider the facts. That their cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps you would be in your best interest now to admit that you might have been mistaken? Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh in this matter, I think. The compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The guild's rules state that the omnibus should be properly and fully equipped at all times. So it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't very responsible. Although with the whole 20 pence thing, I'm looking at you, Beppo. That money-lending fleecer and the pig purse are lying. Oh? Interesting. I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers. Nothing but cowards, the lot of them. What? Uh-oh. It's a trick. Of course it's a trick. Quite so. I must concur here. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yeah, but every time a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, Counsel. But before we proceed any further, there's the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Oh, yeah, you know, this is interesting. Before we had 6 not guilty verdicts. I mean, if this were to be fair, you know, Zeke's over here should have gone through another jury examination here in similar fashion to Leonosuke, which would have been interesting to see. But it surely would have taken a lot of time, I guess. But it is interesting that, you know, when 6 votes are cast into the guilty side, then it is up to the judge to do the final voting. But when 6 not guilty votes are casted into the fire, it is possible to backpedal, I guess. How convenient for the prosecution. Like, in similar fashion to the present time, it is as timeless as the court record. Counsel for the defense. Begin your questioning of the witness, please. Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted, almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Belly is at work, it would seem. What the girl saw.
So I snuck inside the carriage before they looked up, the horses. Just like always.
Okay. So, you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the point of spending a joy to make a few bob, eh? That's a rum idea, ain't it?
I suppose she means there's no point spending money to make money. And that actually makes sense. Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief. Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the forest, no? 4 paying passengers at 5 pence apiece. Make the 20 to which the cabman testified. And while those scapegraces riding for free. So you're saying that it wasn't Gina, but someone else who was riding for free.
The red conch of driver always goes for some grub before its last run, see? So that's when I slip into the carriage and get myself in. So that's when I slip into the carriage and get myself in under the seat. Nice and easy, right?
But your hiding place is a storage compartment. Full of equipment for the coach, no?
Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much.
And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia.
Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell you.
It seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue.
But it was a right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night.
A waste of time? Why is that?
Well, most nights I'm on me own, in the God permit at least some of the time.
Oh, I beg your pardon? Did you say God permit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's not my kind well, that's what my kind called it. It's the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while.
And that's when you come out of your hiding place and get away.
That's it. Only that night. This cove was sat on his seat from the start. And he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch. I was totally stuck.
You mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded in a closed cabin?
Yeah. Right, mister?
To be sure, to be sure. I was as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to leave the cushion you've been set on and find a child now, do you? So this Mr. Strahd couldn't possibly be the culprit then. Yeah, I don't know. Something tells me that for this particular cross-examination, we're gonna have to question that.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see out in the cabin at all.
Not a joke. Most days I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can't have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle.
I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher.
I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other one, see. So most of the time, the passengers plant themselves opposite.
Alright. I do have to apologize over here for Gina's dialogue. I guess it will take some time for my brain to adjust to the way Gina talks here, because it can be a little bit difficult at times.
But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right on me head.
And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out. I see.
Truth is, I ain't too happy in small dark places. It feels too much like being thrown in a clink. But it's the only place to hide in carriages. So it's Opson's choice.
Options? Why doesn't it just stick to picking people's pockets in the open then? I'd say there's some reason that she's not living on, judging from her demeanor.
So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had just to stick out on it there. Nothing else for it. Then after a while, I heard this loud bang. Then it jumped out my skin, I did. And the scream just came out.
Hold it!
When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor?
Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump.
And let out a scream, involuntarily.
That's right. And then I felt the cushion over my head get lighter all of a sudden.
Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes. Or not. It could equally have been the moment the accused stood in order to stab his victim, could it not? Well, girl, did you see what happened at that crucial moment?
Yeah, I saw it.
At the exact moment?
I pushed up the cushion and had a quick butcher's wow and had a chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up the block out what had fell on the floor on a seat opposite. That matches Mr. McGillicuddy's account, of course. But then, the fella suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should never have risked looking. It's because of that, this swell found me. It didn't help me get away, mind.
Hold it!
And when Mr. McGillicuddy discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place?
Scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me on the... He dragged me out and sat me down on the seat and all.
Next to the victim, Mr. Mason.
Yeah. The bloke had a knife in his gut. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit, and he ended up falling onto me. Ugh, how awful. Both me hands got covered in blood. Made me feel sick as a dog.
Both our hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passenger saw. Mm-hmm. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilder for a while. Is that correct?
He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know me name and what I was up to and that. Then I heard something from above. Then I heard something up from above. Someone screamed.
Yes, that's the first on the roof deck, one would presume.
Well, I didn't want no one seeing my face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up smartish, and this Irishman says to me, "Get back under the seat. I'll see that you can get away later." All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent.
For one brief shining moment, yes.
It's clear that they are still very unsure. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this in his testimony, I'm sure we will clinch the verdict we want.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me, but I just cannot quite put my finger on it. Okay. So let me see about some evidence right over here. So I snuck inside the carriage before they looked up the horses, just like always. Actually, can I check something real fast? I wanna see something inside the compartment. Is there such a thing as a light right over there to shine on the objects? Nah, apparently not. And this is a storage compartment, but there's nothing here. It's totally empty. And he still cannot put his finger on it. The sequence of events here feels odd. Like, McGilded said that he heard like something like under him when it all happened. And yet Gilded was seated there in the first place. There was no way for Gina to even know what happened and scream in the first place until McGilded even got up on his seat in the first place. So it kind of makes you question that.
Well, no.
No? Okay, well that's new. I ain't too happy in small dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in a clink. Do you have something to say here?
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Miss McGill? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, Counsel? I'm just wondering if Mr. Stodd's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no. Twas nothing important. Okay. I was feeling bad for the poor lass, is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad. Shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was. I see, yeah. I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm still scared of the dark now. And I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well.
Yeah. I suppose it does. Maybe.
Mr. Strahd, did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise, perhaps?
No, not really.
Nothing?
All I could hear was the Irishman snoring.
The jeevers! There's no need to tell the whole world there'll be foibles, you little scamp.
What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue.
Yeah. What should we make of that last statement of ours? Yeah, it does sound profoundly important, even though I'm not sure how. My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Profoundly important? But all she said was that she heard nothing. Yeah, which is a profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it. I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, Counsel. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating the last statement, please.
What? Supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it won't work on me.
Oh, that's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move. I mean, at this point, like, realistically speaking, you would have been put to jail for even using a gun inside the trial room in the first place. But... hold on.
Hold it!
So you're straining to hear what was happening in the entire time? Since the moment you hid yourself? Yeah, so what she's saying over here is that since the beginning of the ride, when she entered the compartment and hid herself, she has not been able to hear like absolutely anything inside there.
Not exactly, no.
Sorry?
Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I just pushed the cushion up and never butchers to see what was what. But then, when I saw the sword getting on, I got me head down so he didn't notice me.
And Mr. McGill did sat on the seat under you, which you were hiding, correct?
Yeah. Would you Adam and Eve it? Eh? What a mog. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he? Not likely. Even though we stopped in here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay up put and listen to him driving his pigs to market. Snored like an old dog he was.
So that's it? I mean, what about Mason? Did you hear like nothing at all? Do you have like no connection to Mason? Did you not hear him like at all? Not even a single word? Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? Well, let's say that it doesn't add up. Let's see where this is gonna lead us. Mr. Strad, what you just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts.
What?
At odds? Are you sure, man? Absolutely. Yo? Since my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared. So Van Zix realized it too. Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least. Complicit party's name? Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGill snoring. But think, Leonoski, think. There's something else she should have heard. Show a piece of evidence, show up... Ah, okay. I see. I feel like, you know, under normal circumstances, you should have just given me the option to show the court record and show the piece of evidence. But it gives me this specific option with multiple choices over here, including showing a person. It feels oddly interesting of a choice for the game to do something like that. So it kind of makes me think that it wants me to show a person, not a piece of evidence specifically. But okay, I am thinking narratively right over here, which is something that I normally not narratively, but gameplay wise, which is something that I do a lot in Yumi Neko. But you know, realistically speaking, like I mean, I am thinking of Mason, that's for sure. She heard McGill did, like a lot, but apparently throughout this entire thing, she never mentioned like the possibility of another person getting inside in the first place. Not even a single peep of another person besides Mr. McGill did. Let's show a person. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate. On a particular sound that Mr. Strahd could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. Unless there is actually something else. Like, maybe Mason made like a noise at some point? Well, I don't know. But I think that we're talking about Mason right here.
Take that!
Thrice fired Mason? Yes, my lord. The sound that Mr. Strahd cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Order! Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel. Mr. Strahd, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on the board the omnibus. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I?
And the next person to board the omnibus was Mr. Gilded. That it was. Not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least, not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time? Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Really now?
Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on its own for sure.
And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time, did you not hear the door opening or closing at all?
No, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Waiting for this swell to leave.
In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Oh. We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Mr. Strahd's statements about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts.
Ah!
Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zieks. Yeah, he knew. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Mr. Strahd's statement. It seemed words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths, nothing more.
Is that right?
The victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus. That makes no sense whatsoever. The girl's good pickpocket. Let's not forget that. Wow, no questioning whatsoever, huh?
Oh, she didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways. But I must say, I can't abide liars.
And neither can I. But, Mr. Foreman, I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways. I must say, I cannot abide liars. Okay, you guys do have to take into account that McGilded is on the witness stand. He is the one accused, not Gina.
Miss Naruto, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty.
Oh god. Like, one more vote and we're more than likely gonna have to do the jury examination again. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing.
Yeah! What are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Abaddon?
This is carnage. It's perfect.
Ew.
Your number 2 is the only one left.
Miss Naruto, the way this is going...
I know. If I find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilded's innocence, the judge will rule and we have lost.
I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen. But those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. Okay, good. Like, you stopped her just in time, before we would do like another jury summation there. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. What do you say?
Counsel? I'm sorry, sir? Whatever do you mean?
Counsel, I'll not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. Yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty-faced word are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. He wasn't there already. He was put there after he died. Like, a part of me is thinking that we're talking about the skylight. Again, that whole idea I had before about how it can be opened and it can enter inside. I mean, that would certainly explain the loud bang that Gina mentioned. However, that implies that the first and fair play did not even mention this in the first place, on purpose, if something like this were to happen. That Mason apparently entered the carriage through that. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection!
I wondered what new fantasy would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other has only windows. Fixed windows, which cannot possibly be open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door.
Objection!
But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes. One other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside an enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus in which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim enter the cabin? Okay, to be this.
Take that!
The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight. I say, the skylight.
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me lost for words. However,
Objection!
the skylight may be large enough. The skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection!
So you claim. But you have a shred of evidence to support your yellow-brained theory. Both Mr. McGilden and Mr. Stratt said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained. At the sound of the victim falling from his seat having been assaulted with a dagger. Yes, it has. But would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witness described? A noise loud enough to cause Mr. Stratt to let out an involuntary cry, in fact. So we're going with the idea that Mason fell inside the cage and made that thud. Which would explain the blood on the floor? I think that we're going at it the wrong way here. I think that we're going a wrong path here, if we are to go with this kind of idea. Because the blood was not there before. The fact that the blood is there right now, it leads to the idea even more that the body fell like inside the carriage that way. I guess that could be. Good gracious. Perhaps in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
Objection!
You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin. That's simply impossible. How can he be sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, The passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Oh, yeah, that's true, but... Might a humble fella make a wee comment here? Mr. McGilded? To be sure now, the two fellows who were sat on the roof that testified before said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that this is not so much a case of them not saying, but... Aye. 'Tis a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellows do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Is that so? Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Oh my goodness. Surely not.
Those two chaps on the roof? You mean the ones who stuck that knife in the man were...
Ah!
Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitterer?
You brother!
Oh, what the hell are you doing here first?
You rotter, he said. You rotter! What are you insinuating?
This is a flaming outrage. I've got a mind to give you a blinker in a minute.
He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said. And so will I.
Mr. Fairley, first, hold your horses there for a second. You're effectively accusing me, a pseudo gentleman and well-respected banker.
And me, a very angry hatter.
Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts. It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest. I protest in the strongest possible terms.
That's right. I protest too. How about you, you rotten scoundrel?